Hello and welcome into BTN's Take 10 podcast. This is Alex Roux of BTN.com, and as summer season rolls along here at BTN, the Take 10 podcast is rolling along as well. And we got plenty to talk about, especially with the upcoming NBA draft, just about a week away, June 21st in Brooklyn, where a handful of Big Ten players expect to hear their names called and make that move to the next level. So regardless of how many players get drafted, there are plenty of Big Ten players out there who are grinding right now and trying to impress as many teams as possible before that NBA draft and that undrafted free agency period. And, of course, NBA Summer League, which is coming up. So plenty of guys looking for a team. And a couple of those guys joined the show this week on the Take 10 podcast, and they're guys that, if you watch Big Ten basketball, you'll certainly recognize. First guest we have on the show this week is former Purdue sharpshooter, lockdown defender, Dakota Mathias. Dakota jumped on to talk about his training regimen, what he's been up to since he played his last game in Purdue, and also talked about his 4-year career at Purdue, with maybe a Matt Painter story or two thrown in as well. So fun discussion with Dakota Mathias coming up. Second guest on this week's episode is another former standout in the Big Ten. He was from Northwestern. It's former Northwestern point guard Bryant McIntosh. And Bryant put together a great career at Northwestern. They had that memorable run his junior year to the NCAA tournament. So we had plenty to talk about as well. Discuss his time with the Cats and what he's been up to since playing his final game at Northwestern, who he's been working out with, including sharing a trainer with Dakota Mathias and another trainer, as McIntosh gets into it here and explains, who he's been seeing is D. Brown, the former Fighting Illini legend. So some interesting tidbits from both guys on what they've been up to and kind of how this limbo period works between your final collegiate game and your pro career. And I always enjoy hearing about that sort of process. So a couple of fun discussions, a couple of former Big Ten standouts, so definitely stay tuned for those. Before we get to Mathias and McIntosh, just a couple of reminders that we always get to here on the show every week. First, please continue to subscribe on all the platforms where the Take 10 podcast is available. That includes iTunes, Google Play, and Podbean. And I mentioned it last week, we're also on YouTube now as well, so you can find the Take 10 podcast every episode from now on YouTube. Subscribe to Big Ten Network and get all Big Ten highlights videos, all kinds of great stuff on YouTube, and Take 10 podcast videos will be showing up there as well, so you won't miss an episode if YouTube is your go-to platform. So definitely check that out. Quick reminder that we have a coupon code still active on the BTN.com online store that allows you to take 10% off any order of Big Ten merchandise. That coupon code is capital TAKE, number 1 and 0. So it's Take 10. Once again, that's capital TAKE, number 1 and 0. With those reminders out of the way, we can get to our pair of discussions with former Big Ten athletes who are working out for a shot at the next level. First up, we'll start off with former Purdue guard Dakota Mathias, and we'll get to McIntosh after that. So that discussion with former Purdue sharpshooter Dakota Mathias starts right now. I'm very pleased to be joined by a 4-year player at Purdue. He recently wrapped up his senior season with the Boilers and is now looking for a shot at the next level. It's the Midwestern Cowboy, a.k.a. Dakota Mathias. Dakota, what's up, man?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing great, and since you went from talking on Dan Dockich's show just now to calling into this podcast, I'm surprised you have the energy, to be honest, because we know Mr. Dockich can talk. Did he wear you out in the show a few minutes ago?
Nah, not too bad, not too bad. It was pretty fun, actually.
All right. Well, I'm glad you got the warm-up out of the way on the podcast now, and I'm glad we're able to get you on at this time of year and this time of your career, really, because I'm always fascinated with hearing how players, transition to a new life and new career once college hoops are over, especially in this phase right now when so much is up in the air in regards to your career. With the NBA draft just a matter of weeks away, what have you been up to since you last took the floor for Purdue?
Yeah, ever since the last game, I took about 2 or 3 days off. Just kind of re-energized a little bit. Then it was right to work. I work out with a few guys in Zionsville. Joey Burton is our trainer. And Mike Robertson does like the strength conditioning part of that stuff. So, we go pretty much 5-6 days a week. That's been since I'd say early to mid-April. So we've been going pretty hard in there, and it's been fun. Had a few NBA workouts since then with teams, and I got a lot more coming up. Got a little pro day here in Chicago this weekend. Then I go to Charlotte in Sacramento after that. So it's kind of getting full swing here these next couple weeks before the draft starts.
And yeah, we'll get into that process a little more in just a second here. But before we get into that, technically the last time you suited up for Purdue, last time you wore a Purdue uniform, that was in San Antonio at the Final Four as part of the three-point contest. I imagine that had to be a pretty cool experience, right?
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool. Seeing some, there was some the dunk contest judges were there, some, George Gervin, Nate Robbins there, some guys like that, watching and stuff. So it was a cool experience.
Had you ever been to a Final Four before?
I did in Indy. My freshman year, I went and watched Wisconsin, Duke, and those guys in Kentucky. But this is my first one, kind of experiencing some of the festivities and things like that.
Outside of the contest itself, what was the coolest part about that experience?
I think just walking around, seeing some of the shops, some of the restaurants, and just all the fans walking around. There's a lot of celebrities and kind of famous people and different coaches and stuff that you played against or have known through AAU and things like that. So it was kind of cool to see all the connections and people that you know.
Yeah, it's crazy who you run into there. It's just like you said, it's kind of just a convention for everyone to gather in college basketball. It was a really good time being down there and seeing everyone. Dakota, I want to get deeper now into the process of working out for NBA teams and kind of scheduling these pro days and how this all comes together. How does the process kind of evolve? How do you get set up with workouts? And then once you're in their facilities, what kind of pressure is that to have to perform on that stage?
Yeah, a few weeks after our season ended, I had to pick an agent, and I went with Keith Kreider from Edge Sports at Chicago. We've had a great relationship ever since we met and kind of talked things out, and I decided to go with him. So all the teams kind of go through him, and he schedules different workouts and kind of feels out where teams see me or what they think, and that's been the whole process. It always goes through him, and we had my first one was with Boston, and then Toronto right after that, and it's more exciting than anything. There's a little nerves, obviously, the first one especially, because you don't really know what to expect. But once you get out there and you start sweating and playing a little bit, it's just basketball. So it's more fun and exciting than anything, I'd say.
What's the pressure like as opposed to playing in a game with teammates in front of people, as opposed to playing, kind of by yourself in front of scouts?
I think it's fun. I don't think it's too much different. You are out there on your own, obviously, but you can control everything. You got the ball in your hands and you're defending the guy, so it's all in your hands what you're going to do, and it just shows how much work you've actually put in, and they can tell who's in better shape, who's been working on their shot, who's been working on getting to the rim, finishes, things like that. So it's all you, and how accountable you've been on yourself the last couple weeks before that. What
kind of feedback have you gotten so far from the teams you worked out with?
It's been great feedback. I feel like we really elevated ourselves these last couple weeks. Shown that I'm more than just a shooter. I can defend. I can play through the ball screen a little bit. Put it on the floor. Just do a number of different things that'll translate to the next level.
Take me through the experience of kind of traveling around the country, as opposed to obviously you travel all over the Big Ten, all over the country with Purdue, but just doing it by yourself and kind of evolving into this next level of your career. I assume it feels more like just a professional experience all around.
Yeah, you realize pretty quick it's a business and it's your job now. You're flying from city to city. The biggest thing is taking care of your body, eating right food, getting the proper amount of rest, and like I said, just taking care of your body. That's the biggest thing at this point. It's a business. You wake up in the morning, you're going to work out, lift a little bit, maybe take a few hours off, and get back to it again. That's your job. So, but it's what guys like us, we've always wanted to do that.
Is it true that you set a record with the Toronto Raptors in a recent workout with them, a shooting record of some sort?
I did. It was a shooting conditioning drill at the very end. They always do it for their pre-draft workouts. They put 2:30 on the clock. It's essentially full court threes, and then pull-up threes, and then full court layups. As many points as you can get in those 2:30, and I was fortunate enough to break that record.
And I'd imagine you kind of helped hone and craft those skills with the trainer you mentioned earlier, Joey Burton. He trains a number of college and pro players in Indiana, like you mentioned, including a ton of former Big Ten players. So how'd you get put in touch with him, and what are his workouts like?
Yeah, no, I've been in touch with him ever since after my freshman year. I remember Raphael Davis, who's a good friend of mine and former teammate. He got me in touch with him, and Raphael really trusted him, and obviously Raphael improved over his couple years here. So I gave it a shot, and me and Joey had great rhythm together, great synergy. So once I started working out with him, it's history from there. I trust him. He's very detailed, like I am. He's very important on the little things. And I think, my game's evolved as far as, being able to put on the floor, different moves, step backs, creative finishes, and things like that. So stuff that he's really good at has really helped me.
Going through the list of some of his clients, some of the players he works out, Caleb Swanigan, Yogi Ferrell, your teammate Carson Edwards, Glenn Robinson III, Rob Johnson, PJ Thompson, Jay Shantae, list goes on. And the workouts are literally in kind of like a barn, right? Isn't it a kind of unique setting there?
Yeah, it is. It's a barn. I mean, I think that all those guys you listed, they're kind of old school type players. They don't need these fancy workouts in Miami or LA or any of that stuff. At the end of the day, if there's rims and there's a court in there, you can get to work, and that's what we've all done. A lot of our strength conditioning stuff and weights are set up in there as well. So it's kind of all in one, and we get great battles and great workouts in there.
I feel like that's classic Indiana basketball. Just a barn in the middle of the state. What are your interactions like with some of those guys that were your rivals on the court and are now your peers and colleagues and coworkers trying to make the NBA?
Right. We've known, a lot of us have known each other through the AAU circuit and obviously playing in the Big Ten. We're all pretty familiar with each other, but at the same time, we're all trying to compete against each other and help each other out. We know when other people have different workouts, and we're rooting for them and checking in on them, make sure they're doing well. But it's war out there when we have open gyms or we're doing 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 drills. We're competing and trying to make each other as ready as possible.
All right, and you obviously improved a ton at Purdue. By the time you were a senior, you were a completely different player than you were as an underclassman. How do you think that improvement continues at the next level? I guess without the structure of a college basketball program now, as a pro, where can you take your game? How does it evolve from here?
Yeah, you kind of said it. The structure is a little different. I mean, in college, there's a lot of sets, a lot of for us, it's motion offense. At the pro level, there's a bunch more space out there. There's a lot of ISO ball, a lot of kill your man type things, and a lot of movement. So you got to be able to. First thing is the speed of the game. You got to be able to adjust to that quickly, or they'll salt you out. But like I said, defensively, it's probably going to be the biggest thing. Being able to guard people out in space, because everybody at this level can score and get to the rim. So you got to be able to hold your own at that end. But for me, it's just fine-tuning all the skills. Like I said, ball screen work, passing the ball, making the right read, and being able to knock down open shots consistently. That's going to be huge. For
sure. And I want to shift now a little bit to your time at Purdue. Obviously, it didn't end the way you wanted. You had a couple of great seasons, but did that loss in the NCAA tournament in the Sweet 16 leave sort of a bad taste in your mouth and some hunger there?
Absolutely. Whenever you lose, especially if it's your last game of the season or your career, you never know how to let it go. I mean, all of our tournament losses, still kind of eat at me. So, those are things you can always look back as motivation, and I would say more fuel to the fire. For sure. And your senior class you graduated with was known as being very tight-knit, and for good reason. I mean, you guys got to Purdue, and the program wasn't nearly what it was or what it is now, what it is today, and you guys kind of built that program into a Big Ten champion and a Big Ten contender. What would you say your favorite memory is from your playing days at Purdue? I would say favorite memory would probably be winning the Big Ten title at home on our floor against our rival IU. I mean, you can't draw it up any better than that. Being able to win your conference championship against your rival, I mean, that's what you dream about. That's what you want to have. So I think that was definitely something we'll always remember. Yeah, in that senior class, I mentioned PJ Thompson, Isaac Haas, Vince Edwards. You have any stories about those guys, the guys you came up with, kind of grew up with? Any funny stories throughout your 4 years with them on campus? So, I mean, we've had a lot of great memories together. Like you said, when we first got here, we were a bunch of freshmen, didn't know what was going on. We were excited, but there are many stories and a lot of growth. I think the biggest thing was the growth for all four of us from day one to when we walk out these doors. And I think that says a lot to the culture we created and what Coach Painter does here at Purdue. I remember when you were featured on our TV show at BTN, The Journey, you lived in the basketball house with some of those guys, and they kind of got on your case because you had these organizational tendencies that everything had to be really neat in your room. Did they give you a lot of crap like all the time for being super organized, or was that just for the show? No, they definitely do that. That was genuine, especially PJ. He thinks it's really funny because he's kind of a slob and has nothing organized. So he likes to pick fun of me, but that's the way it is. That's what friends do, and I like it that way, though. I mean, that's not a bad tendency to have, to be super organized. I feel like if there's anything that you want to be known for, it's that. No doubt. All right, so you mentioned your career at Purdue. You're the all-time three-point record holder in Boilermakers history with 250. I thought maybe that was going to be your favorite memory, but you went with the team accomplishment over Indiana. So take me back to that night when you set the record
and broke the all-time record at Purdue. For such a storied program, I have to imagine that's a pretty special accomplishment to you personally.
Yeah, no. It was unbelievable. Especially, I didn't have a very good freshman year, especially shooting the ball from three. So I think it was just, enjoying that whole process from, like I said, the end of that freshman year. I knew I had to get so much better. I knew I had to improve things. So, fast forward 4 years, and I break the record that Etuan Moore has. I mean, he's obviously a great NBA player, making a lot of money. So, just to see all that hard work paying off and all that diligence, it was special.
All right, Dakota, I need a Matt Painter story from you because I feel like every Purdue guy I've talked to has a funny Painter story. From Rob Hummel had a funny one. I think Isaac Haas told me a funny one once. You have a favorite story about your former head coach, Matt Painter, you want to share?
Ooh, funny one? Well, this one's kind of a scary one, but I think it really helped our season. After we lost to Western Kentucky, we lost 2 straight at the Bahamas, and we were expected to be really good, and we dropped 2 in a row, and people are freaking out. And he threw a couple of clipboards, off the wall here at us, not at us, but it was off the wall. And I think that moment right there, he kind of got after us. It kind of woke us up, and we routed off 19 straight after that. Beat Arizona, won our first 15 Big Ten games. So I think that kind of set the tone. And he's obviously a great coach and a great leader for us, but just something like that, I think we needed woken up, and he did that.
All right, so from now on, if Purdue's ever struggling, just buy some extra clipboards, and you guys will be all good.
No doubt.
All right, so I tweeted before you came on the podcast for fans to kind of submit some questions to see if you might answer them. So I got a couple questions for you, if that's all right, from fans.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we got one from Twitter handle, great Twitter handle actually, Superbad McLovin. He asks the best opposing place to play that you ever hooped in.
Best opposing place, I would say at Maryland.
Why is
their
that?
Fans, or their student section, they're right on top of you the whole game. I mean, right when the doors open, they're right there. They're saying a lot of nonsense to you the whole time. So I would say that environment's probably the best.
All right, we got a question from a guy named Tanner Lee. He said, "What's your favorite win during your 4 years at Purdue?"
Yeah, I always go back and forth. I would say between winning the Big Ten at home against IU and then beating Iowa State to go to the Sweet 16. That one's special just because the first 2 years before that we got bounced early, we got upset in the tournament. I think that was kind of a defining moment for us, and especially our class, to kind of get over the hump and get back to the Sweet 16 where we thought we belonged.
All right, from Etuan Moore, another great Twitter name. What was the best atmosphere you ever played in at Mackey?
Best atmosphere, I would say when we beat Michigan State my sophomore year. I was with Denzel Valentine, Deontay Davis. They were loaded. They were a really good team that year. And I remember Raphael Davis went off in the first half for like 20. And I've never heard it so loud as it was then.
All right, last fan question from a guy named Jake Richard. He asks, do you have a desire to coach after your playing career is over?
For sure. I definitely want to stay around basketball as long as possible as far as playing. But after that, I want to stick around as well. And I think I got the tools and enough people that have taught me enough to. I think I want to be a coach. Yeah.
All right, awesome. And one more time, can you just rehash your schedule coming up? Which teams do you have coming in to see your pro day, if you know that? And do you have any more workouts scheduled besides that?
Yeah. So this week on Friday, I go to Chicago, and Miami, Cleveland, New York, and Philly will be there for that pro day type thing. And then I go right from there to Charlotte on Saturday, and then that Thursday I'll go to Sacramento. Those are the ones we have scheduled right now, but there'll be a few more coming up before the draft, so a busy week ahead.
Does the uncertainty of not really knowing, where you might be a couple months from now, does that weigh on you at all, or is it more excitement than anything?
Like I said, it's more excitement than anything. I mean, it's fun. You got to enjoy this process because you only go through it once.
Absolutely. Well, as we've seen in the NBA, if you can shoot, there's probably a spot for you somewhere, and we know you can shoot, Dakota. So I appreciate you coming on, especially at a busy time in your life, and best of luck going forward, and congrats on all your success at Purdue.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
All right, Dakota, take care, man. All right, thanks a lot to Dakota for joining me. Best of luck to him as he continues on his basketball journey. And we'll get to another guy who is working out pretty much nonstop to try and get his chance at the next level. He had a very good career during his time playing Big Ten hoops, and as we mentioned at the top of the show, that is Bryant McIntosh. Bryant discusses his 4-year career at Northwestern, discusses a memorable NCAA tournament run, a couple of unfortunate incidents, at least if you look at it from Northwestern fans' point of view, when Chris Collins got the technical foul in the NCAA tournament game, which was certainly very memorable. And he talks about how it took him a while to forgive Coach Collins for getting that tech. That's a funny story we had to get to on the show. And even with all the success they had, he also got into the step back the team took in his senior year and how difficult it was to deal with that. So a lot of good stuff from Bryant McIntosh in the next 20 to 30 minutes or so. And we'll get to it all. I'll stop talking, so we'll let Bryant take it away. It's Take 10's discussion with former Northwestern guard Bryant McIntosh, and it starts right now. I'm very pleased to be joined by a soon-to-be graduate of Northwestern University. He's one of 3 players in Big Ten history to record 1,600 points and 700 career assists. It's 4-year point guard Bryant McIntosh. Bryant, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining me.
It's going well, man. Just enjoying this process now. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. You mentioned the process you're going through right now. Like many players whose college careers have recently ended, you're among a crop of guys currently working out, prepping for a pro career. So what have you been up to since playing your final game for Northwestern a few months ago? Just give us a quick rundown.
Yeah. Since we're still in school, I have to take 2 classes on Tuesday and Thursday. So I'm in Chicago training with coaches, grad assistants, and still attending class. And then on my long weekends, I travel down to Indianapolis. It's about an hour from where I grew up, and I train in Zionsville with Joey Burton, who trains a lot of Big Ten guys, guys like Yogi Ferrell and everything. He's a guy behind their success. So I went down and been training with him and getting ready for this next step.
Yeah, you mentioned Joey Burton, and we had Dakota Mathias on this episode as well. He's a guy who trains with Joey as well. So we'll definitely get into that process in just a minute. But it's interesting that you still have school going on while a lot of guys are already done. Do you think that's kind of a disadvantage for you that you have that to deal with as well while you're working out and traveling an hour to go pretty much get ready for your pro career?
Yeah, I think I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage. Obviously, I've been given a great opportunity to get my education from Northwestern, such a prestigious university, but not having the ability to spend an entire month and just focus on what I'm going to be a pro at, it does put me at a little bit of a disadvantage, I think.
All right, so tell me about your relationship with Joey Burton, how you got put in touch with him, because you mentioned a lot of Big Ten players go to him for training and for their preparation for the next level. So how'd you get put in touch with Joey, and what makes him stand out among all the trainers out there?
Yeah, I mean, Joey is a shooting guru, and my agent really recommended him to me. So we went to work one day, and I just loved what we were doing. I loved the success and the progress that I was making with the things that we agreed that we thought I needed to work on. So being able to get in the gym with him as much as I can is a big priority for me. And that's how I kind of got hooked up with him.
So can you describe the process of actually getting to this gym? Because from what I've heard, it's literally a barn kind of in the middle of nowhere. What do you have to do to even find this place off the side of the road? What kind of landscape is it like out there?
Yeah, well, you get off 465 around Indianapolis, and you're in downtown, Zionsville. It's very populated. You take it about 5 miles out, and it becomes just strictly farming area, and there's some nice houses around there, but you're definitely out in the country. And then you keep going another about 5 miles, where you got a quarter of a mile before you see your neighbor if you lived out there. So, you just keep taking 421 out there for about 10 miles, and you'll see a barn with a bunch of cars. And inside is where the gym is and where everybody's getting to work.
It's like a scene out of Hoosiers, kind of.
It absolutely is. It definitely fits Indiana. It's a incredibly nice gym, for just being a barn.
For sure, and you practice. I know we talked about it with Dakota Mathias on this episode, but you practice with fellow Big Ten guys. So what's it like going up against people you're used to seeing, in Big Ten competition?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. You get great competition. You play with some one-on-one and everything, so you're getting to play against really high-level guys. But the cool thing is you get to develop relationships and friendships that you didn't originally have when you're just competing against guys. So Dakota and I have actually become really good friends, and just having that friendship, and then some of us have had workouts together again. In the pro workouts, we've actually worked out together. So having that familiarity has also been really beneficial, I think, for a bunch of us. Just knowing how each of us likes to play, you develop that kind of relationship on and off the floor.
Yeah, take me through the process of the NBA side of things. Who have you worked out in front of? What teams have you worked out for? Where have you traveled? And what kind of feedback have you gotten along the way?
Yeah, I mean, the feedback, first off, is for me, I'm going to have to be in incredible shape. I'm going to have to be able to pick up full, turn guys, make guys work, and then I'm going to have to turn right back around, get the ball, push it up the floor, be able to play and pick and roll. So my shape is going to have to be very crucial. And, I just have to be a really solid guy in order to find my spot in this league. So that's kind of what we've been working on, is making sure I get my shape in, making sure that when I get an open shot that, I knock it down. It's automatic. So that's the things we've been working on, and the feedback I've gotten from them. The teams I've worked out with so far have been the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers. And I thought I had 2 really good workouts with them. So really exciting. And then we had my agency had our pro day where the Houston Rockets, Philadelphia 76ers, New York Knicks, Cleveland Cavaliers were all in. Miami Heat were also in. So I've had my fair share of opportunities to put myself in front of NBA teams throughout this process, and I'm excited of how it's went.
When you look around the league and the current NBA landscape, which players do you kind of see yourself in, and someone you could emulate and maybe compare your style of play to?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at guys like TJ McConnell, guys like him who are in incredible shape, are really solid, really good backup, guards. And a guy I like to watch a lot of is Kirk Heinrich. I thought he was terrific, especially in Chicago. He was a tough guard, picked up full, made guys work for it, and just was his toughness is something that allowed him to be really successful in the league. And so that's the stuff I'm trying to pay attention to and watch and learn from.
I'm glad you brought up TJ McConnell, because I saw on your Twitter feed you kind of echoed his statement in the form of a quote retweet. So he tweeted that back in his college days, I think that he said he'd walk across the country if it meant making an NBA team. And you said, you one-upped him. You said, yeah, I'd do that barefoot to make an NBA team. So, I mean, obviously no one's making you walk across the country barefoot, but how does your real-life work ethic, like right now, kind of reflect that hyperbole? Like, what are you doing day-to-day to match that level of desire that you expressed there on Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a dream that you're trying to make into reality, so you're putting everything you possibly can. Obviously, like we talked about, I'm still in school, so it's made it a little bit tough, but, working out twice a day. I just finished a workout with D. Brown from Illinois, who does a great job as well up here in Chicago of pushing guys and make sure they're in shape. And having those resources has been and the ability to pick their brain has been really crucial for me. And just trying to put myself in the best shape and prepare myself the best I can for any opportunity that comes my way. And then when I get that opportunity, I have to take advantage of it.
How did you get put in touch with D. Brown? Because as many fans know, he's a legend around Chicago and especially in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, he absolutely is. It was actually a little bit of luck. He is with my agency, so I was actually able to meet him a year ago. He was applying for a job at Northwestern to be on staff, and I was able to meet him there. So I kind of had a little bit of, familiarity with him. But then having the ability to, meet him through our agency and pick his brain. And then he told me, anytime I want to come work, to let him know. So I took him up on the offer. I just was able to go down there and work out with him today.
That's awesome. Current UIC staffer, D. Brown, obviously former Fighting Illini legend. Quick question about your current game. How's that patented BMAC Bryant McIntosh floater doing? Because that's kind of what you've been known for with the teardrop there.
Yeah, I think that's something that's going to remain in my game. It's definitely a go-to shot. I think it's something that's going to be really effective even at the next level, especially with all the shot blockers and athletes at the next level. So it's definitely something that's going to be very beneficial for me to have in my arsenal. But I still have to continue to expand my game and extend my outside shot and other things. But it's definitely a go-to shot for me. Yeah,
no doubt about it. All right, so Brian, I want to get to your Northwestern days a little bit before we wrap up here. Get into your background. You grew up in Indiana. You're an Indiana kid, kind of small town Indiana, and then you end up at Northwestern. Were Purdue and Indiana in on you at all, or was it Northwestern that really showed you the most love, and that's why you ended up there?
Yeah, I had Purdue. They offered me. I had a great relationship with them. I just felt like I was more of an important piece to the puzzle at Northwestern. I thought I would get the ball from day one and have the opportunity to show what I could do and do it for 4 years and learn from the ups and downs of being a freshman and, hopefully put together a great career there, as you learn from those experiences. So I thought having the ability to walk on campus and possibly get the ball right away was something that I wanted to do, and it was definitely difficult to say no to an in-state school, but I think it worked out for the best.
Yeah, I mean, you got that immediate playing time you mentioned and put up big numbers all 4 years. So 4 years ago, if I come up to you and tell you these things would happen during your time at Northwestern, first, Northwestern would make an NCAA tournament, then that there'd be a brand new Welsh Ryan Arena on the way, plus an Olympic Village-style facility like right on Lake Michigan, the spaceship-looking facility that you guys just built. How many of those would you have believed if I would have told you that 4 years ago?
The only one I would have believed is the NCAA tournament.
So you had no doubt about that. And why is that? Why did you think that the pieces were in place that you guys would eventually reach it as you did in your junior year?
Yeah, I just thought I had a lot of belief in the recruiting class. I've always been a big believer in myself as well. And getting to know Coach Collins through the recruiting process, if you would have told me that as I was being recruited by them and committing to them, I would have believed you just because of the winning pedigree that he also has. A lot of the guys he recruited had a winning pedigree or were guys that wanted to win, that valued winning. And I knew eventually if we were going to break through and break the rock, as our mantra of Pound the Rock is. So I definitely saw that coming. When I committed, I was for sure that we would make it. Disappointing that we only did it once, but still something I'm really proud of.
Yeah, and like we said, you contributed at a high level your freshman and sophomore years, but it's the junior year that everyone will talk about for the rest of your life and that will probably stick out to you most. So what memory, if you can pick one out from that season, the NCAA tournament season, sticks with you the most to this day and will probably stick with you far beyond that year?
Yeah, I think Selection Sunday is obviously going to be something that we'll always remember. The picture is always going to be around, but the one memory I'll always remember is running out on the floor in Salt Lake City and just seeing all the purple. There was more fans than what we would get at a home game. Obviously, our gym is much smaller than what we were playing in, but it was the most Northwestern fans I had ever seen in a basketball game. So that was the moment that I realized that, we had really done something special. And then to be able to walk away in a dramatic fashion of winning that game is something I'll always stick with me.
Yeah, you had a big role in winning that game in dramatic fashion. As many people remember, that was the opening round game against Vanderbilt. The Vanderbilt player made a huge mistake by fouling you and putting you on the line when Vanderbilt was actually up. But then the pressure's on you in that situation to make those free throws. So were you nervous at all being kind of thrust into that situation and, you're not really expecting to shoot free throws in that situation, even though you were a very good free throw shooter? So was that kind of a unique sense of nerves there or not really?
It was definitely a unique situation. When they scored, I definitely had confidence that, the last two possessions, I had actually went down and just kind of gotten an ISO and scored. So I definitely had a great rhythm and great confidence going into that possession. And then when he fouled me, I was shocked and looked at the scoreboard and thought, okay, maybe they had a foul to give. They want to get their defense set. And then realized I had to shoot free throws. So, it was just collecting yourself and, trying not to overthink of the mistake they made, and just take advantage of the opportunity.
Absolutely. And then you guys moved on to face Gonzaga, eventual runner-up Gonzaga, and the play that everyone remembers from that game is the goaltend that wasn't on Gonzaga, and then Coach Collins gets a technical foul, and Gonzaga pulls away. But when I was watching that live, I was like, yeah, that's it's a tough tech to take, but how do you not get one in that situation? So I'm curious your thoughts on, if you forgive Coach Collins for picking up that technical, and was it a clearly outrageous missed call?
Yeah, honestly, it took till after the NCAA tournament for me to forgive him, because, I was the one who I drove and made the pass to Derek kind of behind my head, and Derek goes to lay it in, and the kid sticks his hand through the rim. And, we all saw it happen. We knew what happened. We knew it was a missed call. And I see I'm running down the floor, and I see Coach Collins freaking out. And instead of running back on defense, I stop, and I'm like, Coach, no, we can't afford it, because we're still in the game. Even though it was a missed opportunity, there's still plenty of time. We're only down, I think, 5. That would have made it a 3-point game. So, I knew, hey, we can't afford to just give them something easy and then get the ball back. So, when that happened, they put 2 points on the board through the free throws, and then they scored, and the game was basically out of reach. So it had stopped all momentum, and so it took me a while to forgive him. But looking back, he didn't say anything, and honestly, I can say that he didn't say anything to deserve the tech, and so it's still upsetting that he got it. But he was just saying, the kid stuck his hand through the rim, and it was a clear missed call, and he was just fighting for us. So, it's definitely something that's out of all of our control.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you can see on the replay, like, it's not like he swore at the ref or anything like that. I think it was just kind of a natural reaction, and it kind of brought out, like, the fan in him, I think, as far, that's like what a fan would do, like on their couch, they would jump up and do the same thing. So I wasn't surprised to see it. Speaking of Coach Collins, he seems like a pretty personable guy, pretty entertaining guy. Do you have any stories that stick out in your mind regarding Coach Collins from your days? Because usually players have one or two that come to mind when you ask them about a story that always resonates with them.
Man, I have so many stories, and a lot of them come from his experiences at Duke. I grew up a huge Duke fan, big J.J. Redick fan. And so him telling us stories of being at Duke, but, personally, his theatrics that you see on the sideline are things that we saw frequently in practice. So, if you missed a shot bat, or you drove and threw an errant pass, he would impersonate you and make it look even worse. So, it's hard to explain, through just telling it. You would actually have to see it with your own eyes. But those theatrics that you see on the sideline are something that is not uncommon.
All right, Bryant, so after that tournament year, last year was obviously a bit of a letdown. Can you describe your frustration that you must have had personally during your senior year? You dealt with injuries, and just the win-loss record didn't turn out like you guys expected. So how did you handle that frustration that I'm sure came along with a season like that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought throughout my 3 years before that I had really dealt with, a lot of adversity. We go from not, losing 10 games in a row my freshman year to not making the tournament like we kind of expected. We got 20 wins, but still didn't have anything to show for it. No NIT appearance, no NCAA appearance. So it was still 2 really tough years, and then you have a spectacular year, and having to deal with the adversity of being injured, not being yourself. and then not being able to be there for your teammates. We had a lot of adversity, just against us, just because we didn't have a home gym. We didn't really have our own practice gym. There was no time to really go back and get your own individual work in, late at night, just because it was a rec practice facility. So once we finished practice, they opened up the gym for everybody else to come play their intramurals, and so it was definitely a tough situation. It's really frustrating, really disappointing with how the year went. But when you look at the big picture, I think everything worked out. I have no regrets, so I think that's the one thing I can be really proud about.
Yeah, tremendous body of work when you look back at it. And now going forward, the arena will be finished. You guys won't have to mix it up with the intramural teams anymore, trying to get your own work in. And Chris Collins will continue to be the head coach. So what do you foresee regarding the future of Northwestern basketball under Chris Collins, not just next year, but beyond that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with the fact that, leaving the keys, because, when I walked on campus, he handed me the keys to the new car, and, there's a dent or so in it, but overall, it's a really bright future. A lot of miles left on the car. We have a great group of guys coming back, some young guys that are coming in, and some transfers that I think are going to make big time help for us. That is really going to up our level of play here at Northwestern. I'm really excited about the team we have. Hopefully we can get guys back and healthy and have a good off season and have a great year. So it's definitely something I'm excited and looking forward to seeing.
All right, and I'm going to let you go in just a second, Brian, but before we do, I wanted to get into pop culture a little bit. We can't talk all basketball for this entire discussion. So going through your Twitter timeline, it looks like you're a Drake fan. Is that right?
Yeah, big Drake fan.
All right, big Drake fan. So what's your maybe favorite one or two songs right now, favorite songs by Drake, and then how do you think his album's going to be coming out in just a couple weeks here? Yeah,
I mean, all his songs that he's released recently are spectacular. His Nice for What album is that song is that's a great classic song that I think he's released. I think the album is going to be tremendous. Really kind of disappointed that he didn't, fire back at Pusha T, but it is what it is. They squashed it, so I'll be interested to see if there's any subliminal disses in the album as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy kind of how hip-hop is really, reignited just all this, between the rap beefs and Kanye coming back and Drake dropping his album. It's been a fun summer already so far. It's going to be so much fun going forward, so I'm looking forward to it. And I'm a huge Drake fan as well, so I knew I had to ask you about that coming in. All right, last question, Brian. I know you're extremely busy with schoolwork still and basketball, but what else you got going on in your free time? Do you have any shows you're watching? Anything like any hobbies going on? What do you do when you do get that free time?
Yeah, when I get a free time, I like to watch movies, watch shows. The show I'm actually kind of binging right now is Homeland. When I get an opportunity, I try and watch that as much as I can. So, I think it's a really good show. A lot of twists and turns. So, definitely something that's really interesting. I haven't yet to go see the Avengers, the new Avengers movie. So that's on my to-do list. Just been super busy with school and everything. So those are the things I like to do in my free time, is watch some movies, maybe watch some TV.
What season of Homeland are you on?
I'm on the last season, so I have about 4 episodes left until I get to the end of the season.
Oh man,
then I'm gonna have to find a new show.
Yeah, you're ahead of me. I think I'm on the second to last season. I kind of dropped it for a while because honestly, it got a little stale. I thought in the middle, but the first couple seasons were unbelievable, and then it got really good again. I thought toward the end. So that's another one I'm watching as well. I'm kind of here and there, just when I get a free hour or so, I'll pop it in. So
yeah, exactly. The hour long is a big dedication, but it's a great show.
No doubt. All right, Brian. Appreciate you taking some time with me today. Really interesting stuff. I'm glad you could finally forgive Coach Collins for the technical and share some other stories with me. So thanks so much. Best of luck going forward, and congrats on an awesome career at Northwestern.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.